Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of LostinTranslationmon. This time we'll be covering Digimon Ghost Game episode 17, Icy Hell. I'm May, and this time, because I had a last minute Schnauzer Club event that we found out about it very last minute, we kind of had to record this a little bit differently. And we've done this a little bit similar to this in the past, where Quinn and Chloe have actually recorded on their own, and they've sent through their audio, and I'm going to edit it in to this episode. So, we're recording separately, but together, we are together in spirit and in soul, and in podcasting, editing goodness. So, that'll be a thing. So hopefully this episode is still a fun to listen to podcast, because we do have Quinn and Chloe who are recording at the same time, and just me on my lonesome. So before we get into the discussion, we'll just go over the synopsis for this episode. So Kirishiro takes the group to look at a facility in a snowfield. However, a Digimon called Frozomon, which is another newish Digimon to debut, sees this unnatural warmth as a threat and attacks. Ruri is outside the building this snowman, and is able to get to safety when she re-enters the building following directions from Kirishiro. Everyone in the group except for Tesla Jellymon succumbs to the cold, and Kirishiro tells her to save Ruri. Ruri feels hopeless, and Tesla Jellymon slaps some sense into her literally, and they're able to bond enough for Ruri to call out the attacks for her in those flashes of inspiration. Frozomon has some friends come up to protect him, and they explain that they were unable to pass through with this heat source going. Kirishiro feels bad, and mentions how he'll shut it down long enough to allow them to pass. And now we'll go on to Chloe and Quinn's thoughts.
So what highlights do you have, Quinn?
So I did, on a higher level than the episode itself, think the idea of like the attacks from non-partners is cool. That's since you haven't seen all that much Digimon, not a thing that's ever been before, which is neat. They've done some episodes where, characters kind of got mixed up with partners and stuff, but usually just went with, okay, cool, now we're powerless.
Okay.
So, this is different and could lead some interesting directions, especially if we got, like, alternate evolutions out of different tamers I'm gonna go with for the moment.
Ooh.
Like,
buddies or whatever. But yeah.
There were implications, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. I also like the implications of that. And I liked how I felt like they did a good job of conveying the, desperation that Tessa Jellymon and Ruri must have been, feeling during that fight. It was nice. But yeah, the implication of being able to, beam moves to someone that's not your partner, for lack of a better term, is certainly something. I saw someone on the Discord was talking about how that could be kind of scary if Gulu Scamamon shows up again. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. I had something a moment ago.
See, this is why I wrote down my notes. I'll just go real quick then while you're thinking.
Yeah, by all means.
They surprised me by actually kind of having stakes this episode, or as close as we can get.
They did. They did kind of.
I didn't expect.
Stakes.
What's that?
They did. I mean, it was very abstract. They didn't. I don't know. I at least had no point really felt like they were in danger, but that could also be because I, called the plot of the episode from 4 seconds in.
I mean, it wasn't hard to figure out, but I mean, I guess I didn't expect them to actually have, the weak voiced, I'm done for, save the others stuff, and, actually having them, pass out from hypothermia. I expected that there would have, someone or something to save the day well before we got to that point. So I feel like this is about as close to, high stakes as we were likely to get. And I was surprised by how high the stakes were. I thought that it was going to be much less close, I guess.
That's fair. I see where you're coming from. It does make a difference that I had already seen the episode of Code Lyoko that this was based on in advance.
That's fair. I watched it while you were watching this, and it was pretty bad.
It was not good. Much like a lot of this episode.
Yeah. The only other highlight that I have that you haven't already mentioned was just kind of getting some more information on how the mechanics of the pocket dimension stuff works. Because, it was interesting to note that turning the place into a desert didn't necessarily make it get warmer, for probably a variety of reasons. First of all, just because, a desert just means that it is low moisture, not that it's necessarily hot. But
I will
also
definitely give you that one.
Yeah. But also the fact that, that also, I actually went back and checked because I was curious. And in episode 15, when they went to the snow dimension, they weren't like, making clouds of vapor with their breath. So it might just actually be consistent that changing the going to the pocket dimension doesn't actually change the climate that they're in. It just is a visual effect, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like at least the degree to which they were interacting with the snow makes me feel like I'll be curious to see if this ends up being inconsistent later, because it being Digimon, I expect it to be inconsistent later.
Yep. And that about covers it for my highlights.
Yeah, Tesla Jellymon was kind of adorable at first, I'll give them that. First couple of minutes, were interesting. The cold open was at least an attempt at something.
Yeah, I put that down in my miscellaneous thoughts because I don't think it quite
open.
qualified as a highlight for me. Ha 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 ha, cold open. Are we ready to move on to our lowlights then?
Yeah, lowlights sounds good to
Okay.
me.
Do you want to just trade off lowlights?
Sounds good.
Go back and forth? Okay, I'll start. That's not how snowblowers nor thermodynamics work.
Yeah, snowblowers do not work that way, or... I was willing to let some of the thermodynamics slide, because I'm willing to let the Matrix do that, but it just got so much worse as the show went on.
Yep. Your turn, I suppose?
They had a bunch of negative Celsius temperatures, and at no point did they have it get down to minus 40 so that someone could acknowledge that at that temperature it's the same as Fahrenheit.
I know, right? I was really hoping they would. I'm glad that made it onto your lowlights.
It was honestly the first thing I started hoping for.
Yeah. Same, but I actually didn't think to include it on my lowlights, actually.
Well, good then.
Yeah. Okay, my turn. So this is a two-parter. Rui just kind of got back inside the complex at some point with, like, no explanation or even transition as to when that happened.
Yeah.
And then also, why didn't Angoramon just phase through the walls and shit to look for her when he was so panicked about, like, I don't know where Rui is,
We had a lot of solutions to problems that
we didn't
really use.
Yeah.
I will give them a little bit of praise for acknowledging that, yes, we can change to another terrain, but I wish we got more than 0 about why that didn't help. Was the snow cold the other week? I assume that it was. Granted, you could say the ambient temperature and such, but okay, does that mean if it was a 90-degree day, you'd make it snowfield and it's just the perfect weather for a snowball fight? How does this work? What does this mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they could have done with a little more explanation there, I think. They could have cut some of the, dramatic, I'm so weak, to include a little bit more.
Exactly. We did a lot
consistency stuff. Yeah. It also kind of rubbed me a weird way that Angoramon didn't have any way to communicate with Kiyoshiro to say, hey, stop telling Frozomon to stop, but he was able to listen in to the phone conversations.
Yeah, y'all still got text messages, right?
Yeah. Yeah, your turn, I suppose, if you've got another one ready.
Let's see here.
I've got a list of like 7 more bullet points to go through.
Yeah, okay, so my next big one is, what is Kiyoshiro... What is his major? What exactly would you say it is he does? Because he's...
Big brain.
He's in grad school and designed a power plant, but goes...
Is he in grad school? I thought he just had a PhD.
Is that what it is? Okay, maybe
He went to the US to get a PhD or something like that? Or maybe
so
just
you're
a master's, I
12-year-old
can't
with
remember.
a PhD who for some reason just gets to hang out in a dorm, but also designed a power plant.
Yeah.
And also, again, what are you a PhD in?
In being smart. Look, Quinn, you're clearly just too small-brained to understand.
And who let you build this? Who?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, who
Yeah.
do you work for that you have not reported the existence of Digimon to?
Yeah, straight up. I'll take the next one, I guess. This whole episode just kind of seemed like the week of the plot hole, Yeah. Like, I'm still super unclear as to Frozomon's whole motivation here. Like, it seemed like his whole problem was that this place was too hot. So then he cooled it down to -20 and beyond, and at that point, I'm fairly certain the rest of the place would look hot by comparison. And that's even made abundantly clear when Rui goes outside and says it's warmer outside than it is inside. Yeah, exactly. So, like, was it really just like an ego thing that he wanted to stick it to the nosy human who shouted stop over the intercom? Or, like, what is his deal?
Yeah.
He keeps on talking about how, you can't get in the way of my mission, but what is your mission? To make the hot thing cold? Because you've already long since
the hot thing
that mission.
Needed to be cold so that we could move past it, because going around isn't a thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. To skip ahead a little bit on my list here, we've fucking established that Frozomon can turn. Why couldn't they just go around the power plant?
And yeah, Frozomon just being unwilling to say any words.
Yeah, well, and same for Kiyoshiro and them too.
The entire thing being just a very minor miscommunication, even more than any other week.
Yeah, like, why not, instead of just saying, stop it, stop it, stop it, say, please stop, there's people in here who will die if you keep going.
Yeah. Do you not know how temperatures work, B?
For real? Well, clearly not, because apparently they don't know how seasons work.
Or literally how temperatures or snow or Ruri made an igloo to you. She made an igloo, but the big thing covered in snow apparently gets it to -25 Celsius.
Yep.
And also, we have a heat sword. Cool.
Sort of on that note, why would the blast doors even slow Frozomon down? We've established that they can just phase through whatever the hell they want, and I think the answer is just because we conveniently forgot that they can do that this episode, because otherwise, why wouldn't Angoramon have just phased through the walls to look for Ruri,
This is, I mean, there are so many just stupid plot holes that you have to ignore the series' own established rules, because,
that they even made a point of telling us.
Didn't allow that.
Yeah.
To add one last brief highlight, I've been kind of scrubbing through, and Ruri's shoes are a good highlight.
That's fair.
I posted a picture.
Oh, please. Yes, I need to see. Ooh, you're right. Those are some good shoes. Mm-hmm. Fair. Let's see. What else here? Oh, the heat source becoming more active when the plant was shut down. I am not a geothermal engineer, but I don't think that's how it works. It's not a nuclear power plant. It's not going into meltdown,
Yeah,
Like, if there's a geothermal engineer out there who can tell me why I'm wrong, then please do.
There would be some degree of, we are siphoning off the heat, so maybe, potentially I buy a little bit of that. But also, we did that, and then, we turned off the power plant to make it warmer, but then later we turned off the power plant to make it cooler.
Yeah! Also, what the shit? They just turn off the power plant for a little bit, and the Digimon charge off in a direction that's not the same direction as the power plant, because the power plant is not on screen as they, charge off through the valley into the sunset. Why did we have to turn off the power plant?
Why does temperature affect ghosts?
And I mean, I get the stuff about all these, clearly ice-type Digimon being concerned about things warming up, but, it's not like they even put a global warming spin on it.
Yeah,
it was literally just we couldn't pass through because it was too warm. And then they just leave in a different direction.
Also, I like how this power plant that I remind you Kiyoshiro designed and had built by someone just has a thing to allow you to track where anyone is on a very 90s UI.
Yeah. And, why destroy the power plant if they were just passing through anyways?
Yeah, I'm here to
Why not just go a little out of your way?
And just chasing Ruri down for no reason.
Yeah, is it just ego? Because, that was the other thing, is, Angoramon at one point says, no, Kiyoshiro, don't rile him up, but we'd never established why. So we're just kind of forced to assume that, Frozomon's just a big old dick. Yeah.
Also, Jellymon can keep herself warm, but can't, hug someone else. And I'm willing to go, okay, so she, would be electrocuting, maybe. But I at least would have liked us to think of it, instead of just being like, my bee, we're gonna watch you freeze to death.
My electricity, not yours. Also, what was with Angoramon's bullshit at the end about, the silent ideal worker or whatever. Like,
I have no idea.
literally any amount of communication more than we had could have prevented this entire conflict this episode.
Yeah, like
And then he's going on talking about, like, sure, silence might be, or how does he even phrase it? I need to find it here.
I didn't follow the Japanese on that one, so I'm not going to critique the translation here, but I sure don't know what they were trying to say that doesn't just sound like servants should be seen and not heard.
Yeah, so the subs that I've got here say, silence can sometimes be troublesome, but could be a model example of a workman. And I'm like, how are you saying that the lack of communication here was a good thing?
I think we're just saying that servants should be seen and not heard.
A good worker asks no questions and just acts.
Ideally, you're just a cog in the capitalism machine, exactly like and interchangeable with all the others.
I guess. Anyway, I think that more or less covers... I talked about why would the blast doors even slow Frozomon down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've covered all my lowlights then.
If you hadn't mentioned that, it's certainly a valid, but I'm gonna go with brief at this point. We've kind of belabored it.
Yeah. Anyway, who was your favorite character?
Rui's shoes.
Okay. Damn it. I meant to parse this out before we started recording. My favorite character is Skimanydomrehit, which is thermodynamics backwards, because that's the only thing that was happening while the laws of thermodynamics were on vacation. The thing I just said instead was here taking place, and that is my favorite character.
Okay. Also,
backwards.
do me a favor and just take any of the times we've said thermodynamics and please just flip it backward and insert it a few times here.
Please. Thank you.
Thank
you, Air.
like we're a new Tata song before the Skrillex.
There we go.
That's what I got. This episode was kind of hilarious. I'll give it that.
What would you rate this episode, then?
I'll be generous and say a 2, because I was entertained to a degree.
Yeah, I had to deliberate on it for a while, and I wrote out this whole thing about it, because, there were some cool moments, when there were actually some stakes, sort of, and when Ruri and Jellymon thought that everyone else was dead, and they went into that kind of panicked frenzy where, Ruri had the flashes of inspiration for Tesla Jellymon. That was cool. But I just can't ignore how contrived and stupid the rest of the plot was.
Last low light. Too cold to say attack names.
You're not wrong. Oh, yeah. Why didn't we just have Betelgeumamon make a fire?
Yeah. Guy.
That thing is that. Yeah.
If we're already
maybe it was just
too
cold for fire.
Fire guy can't stay warm, but electricity girl, she got this.
Yeah.
Home sweet baby.
Yeah. So basically, what I did was I went through and gave half a point for each thing that I liked about the episode, which was namely that the animation was fairly good throughout it. It answered and raised some interesting mechanics questions, such as how the desert biome didn't change the temperature, and how Ruri was able to interface, for lack of a better term, with Jellymon when they were fighting. And that there were some actual, stakes, or, as close as we could get to them. I still feel like there should have been more consequences, someone should have had some frostbite, probably, but it's a kid's show and everyone has to be fine at the end of the day. But
yeah,
those were, the 3 things that I liked about this episode, so I'm giving it a 1.5.
Yeah, there was, roughly 1 minute of content that I was pretty into, around, 21 minutes that could have just been an email.
Yeah. Got any miscellaneous thoughts about the episode? I've got a few.
Fire guy, I don't know, I'm still just mad about that.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. For my miscellaneous thoughts, I also kind of noticed that we hadn't really had the, I bet you're wondering how we ended up in this wacky situation sort of intro before, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it was kind of neat, if a bit of an extreme eye roll, to see Kyoshiro bragging about the power plant that he, more or less designed. That was kind of fun. It was also great to see Ruri and basically everyone except for Hiro and Gamamon just not give a single shit and just want to see the onsen. And I'm kind of sad that they never got to in the end.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's it. I am sort of okay with everyone else just, giving no... just no room left to care about Kiyoshiro bragging all the time about everything.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I will say I was not kidding about this being an episode of Code Lyoko. I mean, specifically episode 45, Cold War.
Yep, I watched it. You're not wrong. It's like the exact same premise, and like you said in the chat, literally down even to the girl getting separated from the rest of the group.
Yep, this time it was girls getting separated, but like that was it. Yeah, they clearly had a plot that they were gonna crib, and just had to make it work for some reason.
Yeah. It didn't make it to the point of highlight or lowlight or anything for me, but I did kind of like just the little almost chibi looking hero and Kiyoshiro being held by Angoramon when he was like stuffing them inside his fur. And also on that note, I need to know more about Angoramon's anatomy, but like not in an ooh way, right? Like,
you know what I need?
Like there were the rail. That's a Hades joke for y'all.
Let's be clear on that note. No, what I need is a plushie of Angoramon holding the two kids under his arms.
Yes. But at any rate, I need to know more about what's going on underneath all that fur, because there was at least one point where it very definitely looked like they were being held within his fur, but then I'm like little kangaroo babies, like little joeys. But then does that mean that Angoramon is like slim, like his evolution underneath all that fur? Like, I need to know. I feel like there shouldn't have been enough room for both of them to actually be fully embedded up to their necks in Angoramon's fur, unless he's real skinny underneath all that fur.
It's Digimon physics. You'll see them do exactly the same thing with bushes from time to time. In fact, I don't have it handy, but I hope Air will show you just the most incredible shot from 02 of people's dorky-looking faces popping out of a bush. It's just terribly, terribly drawn, and I love every moment of it.
That's fair. Well, but I mean, a bush I can understand because it's at least hypothetically, semi-sparse in between, and you can kind of push stuff out of the way. But if we're talking like a solid being, it's a bit of a different story, you know?
You do have a point.
Another thing that didn't quite make it to highlight or lowlight was when Ruri was hovering her finger over the call button when they were waiting for Frozomon to kind of go through the blast door that had been busted up. They got me. I thought for sure she was going to hit the call button right as Frozomon passed through, but then she didn't, so good on you, Digimon. You got me. And then the last miscellaneous thought I had from this episode was that I was kind of hoping that when Gamamon was like right on the brink of death that he would have had a Gulus Gamamon evolution, and I think it's kind of a shame that didn't come to be.
At very least, it would have been nice to have somebody like worry about that happening.
Yeah, right? Because like, it was Bokemon's death that caused it in the first place, so I feel like it's kind of unrealistic that Gamamon facing his own death didn't, have that same panic or terror or whatever that triggered the Gulus
at a
evolution.
minimum, why didn't we have some like Gamamon, no, you cannot go to sleep?
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like if we'd gotten a Gulus evolution, it could have been a good opportunity for them to, work together for a change and, start making steps towards having Gulus Gamamon be just another evolution instead of the evil evolution. But, alas.
Yeah, I could see them going in that direction. That'd be interesting, at least.
Yeah, give them a shared goal of their own survival, so that we can later
and then
show
as a larger theme, you have to actually face your inner demons, not just decide to repress them and or
right, exactly.
talk about them exactly one time, Taichi.
Get a little nurture as opposed to nature argument going here, and show that oh hey, even something that seems at a glance like it's evil can also be a good guy if in the right circumstances.
For instance, if they're actually a good guy, but also just not really talkative and want to bulldoze down literally anything that's a mild inconvenience to them.
Mm-hmm.
Model workman.
Truly the platonic ideal for employees.
How was this not oh yeah, Atmon would have made this an out-of-control AI trying to, execute an optimization function of some kind. Which, again, would have been great if Digimon cared about that at all.
Yeah. Well, if this was Atmon, we'd have a overarching villain who would have been behind it all, Instead, it was just we were on our way to somewhere colder, and we saw this hot thing, and instead of going around, we decided to
destroy
bulldoze it more or less. for reasons.
Also, even had the power plant not been there, like, y'all know how onsen work, don't you? Like,
Yeah,
were just
right? Like, even if the power plant wasn't there, it would still be warmer than the surrounding area.
you were just gonna dump snow on the volcano to make it go away.
Yep.
I see.
But you weren't. That's what I want to do anytime I see a hot spring, is just dump so much snow on it that, how have they not thought of that for the Yellowstone supervolcano? Just let it be real cold. Problem solved.
Yeah. I love that we both can make an igloo out of snow to keep us warm, but also being densely packed in snow causes it to get to negatives. But also, power plants can both make volcanoes hotter and colder. Why?
Yeah.
Kiyoshiro, you could have just flipped the temperature dial, apparently, at any time.
Yep. Yeah, no, there are certainly things I liked about this episode, but so much of it just hinges on the viewer having no freaking idea how thermodynamics works or any physics
I
works.
feel like
that I just
we're gonna have a bunch of air saying it's fine as long as you don't think about it, and
yep. But that's the
air,
thing. I can't
buddy,
not think about it.
Yeah, I'm willing to forgive a lot, but the episode isn't even internally consistent to itself.
Yep.
And they caught exactly one potential plot hole by going, hey, what if we did desert for a second?
Yep.
Because that was the important one.
Anyway, what are your thoughts on the season so far, Quinn?
It's better than Colon so far?
It's about what mine boils down to as well. Like, I don't know. When Ghost Game is good, it's great. But, like, there are definitely still episodes like this one that just fall flat for me.
Yeah,
but, even then, after giving this episode a 1.5, I still feel like I liked this better than most of the Adventure Colon episodes I watched.
Yeah,
And I'm sure it's got to get old listening to us just pile on Adventure Colon, but, like, hey, it is what it is. The only other frame of reference that I really have is Appmon, and, like, very few things are going to compare favorably to Appmon.
Buddy,
so
you're no Appmon.
Exactly.
Appmon was my friend. Anyway. Yeah. I think I'm good. Later, everybody.
Well, hold on. The last thing we were asked to cover was predictions for next episode.
Oh, right. I glanced briefly at the next time on earlier, but I was so mad about everything else that I didn't pay a lot of attention at the time.
I definitely get that. It seems like we're doing a Digimon horror-ish retelling of Peter Pan.
Okay, which, I mean, Peter Pan should be at least largely a horror, looks like...
Yeah, Peter Pan should be considered a horror story instead of just like a fun fairy tale, if I'm being honest here.
I don't know the name of, but I'm super into this extraordinarily non-binary looking pirate Digimon.
Yeah, super here for it.
The
subtitles, at least on mine, were a little confusing though, because they said kids don't want to grow up, but then went on to talk about how grown-ups don't have to do homework and can play games all night. And I'm like, okay, so what's
mixed messages here, because
yeah,
the writers just didn't know how to be internally consistent even for a second.
That's fair. And then they also talk about the cost of are you ready to pay the cost of, the implication being the cost of being a child forever. And I guess the implication from that, seeing, Gamamon all huddled up alone and
is that you go to a farm
our non-binary Peter Pan stabbing a soccer ball, is that you don't get to enjoy any of it, I guess, and or you lose your connection with your Digimon partner or whatever. So
yeah, I don't think they're gonna threaten the connection with anyone's Digimon partner. I think we're gonna get some abducted children, at least, and then something bad happens, like putting too much air in a balloon.
Solid reference. Yeah.
That's most
all
of what I've got. I don't
Yeah.
think we're really gonna get any more plot stuff, but we will have characters mention that the thing that happened this week happened last week.
You think so?
Yeah, because I mean we don't have we don't have Sensei to ask anymore. I can't remember. Pokemon. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was Pokemon or Namon for a moment because I got
it was Pokemon.
Cool.
Because I don't know who that other one is.
That Pokemon's definitely not homosexual life partner.
Gotcha.
That they literally have an adopted child with.
Aww.
It's very adorable and the best thing that happens in Frontier.
Yeah, it's cute as hell.
What was I even talking about anymore?
That next week they're going to reference the events of this week, I guess.
Oh, right, no, because he's dead. We need someone else to talk to about this. but we'll still have to acknowledge that this series isn't completely episodic next week by making a very small one-line reference to this thing happened, and Hero is aware of it and thinking about it. Because that's pretty much what we've done.
This thing being the fact that the shift didn't...
Longtime Digimon fans are going to be going absolutely nuts at the shared partners aspect of things. Just because, that is super unprecedented. And I do think that's neat. I just think I'm going to be less ebullient about it than other fans at this point.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it was neat. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. It was the original idea in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crap, we forgot to... Well, I guess a 1.5 is my lowest ranking, so it's going to be at the bottom of my list there.
I am also going to go ahead and put it at the bottom of mine. I don't remember if that's my lowest ranking, but quality-wise, I think this was...
Oof. Let me give a quick look over here. You gave this a 2?
I think so.
You gave a couple other episodes a 2. You gave episode 6 a 2, and you gave episode 10 a 2.
Yeah, I'll put this at the bottom of the 2. It was a soft 2. It was generous.
Okay.
So, still the worst.
Cool. Fair enough. But still better than most of colon.
True.
Okay. I think we've covered everything that we needed to.
Alrighty. Later, folks.
We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
And now that we're done hearing from Chloe and Quinn, I'll go over my own discussion points for this episode. I'll kind of be combining the discussion portion with the usual pondering and predictions and Postmon Pat segment as well. So this is just overall mainness, I guess you could say. It's just mainness, complete mainness, and also Sparta. Anyway, old memes from very long ago. I really hope that people are old enough to remember those memes. I feel like they were just yesterday, but now when I'm thinking about it, oh no, those were that was well over a decade ago. But anyway, so highlights for this episode. I appreciated how we have a Digimon Mon of the Week who isn't bad, isn't misunderstood, actually had a pretty good reason for attacking the people because he was doing it for his own well-being and the well-being of his team. Didn't necessarily mean to almost cause the death of the main characters. So I like that. It wasn't just, oh, it's the Mon of the Week. Oh, I was misunderstood. I thought that humans like to be frozen to death. Whoops, my bad. And it wasn't just, mwahaha, I'm evil, I freeze all the humans to death for fun. It was actually a pretty reasonable, we just wanted to get past, and I wanted to make sure my group was safe because they're made out of ice, and I didn't want them to die. And at the end of the day, it's almost like Kiyoshiro and his group are the baddies almost. So it's an interesting perspective of the Mon of the Week. So I appreciate that. That was cool. I also liked how we got to see that the DIMs have their functionality to change the sort of area, that sort of phase shift thing, but it doesn't actually impact the temperature. Another thing I liked is the fact that we actually have a partner Digimon bonding with a human Digimon who's not their partner and able to do things that usually you'd expect from partner Digimon. It's more like this show instead of other seasons where you're destined to be with this one Digimon and only you can be the evolution battery. This season's more showing that it's just the bond. Like in the case of Kiyoshiro and Ruri, their Digimon kind of just stalked them a little bit and formed a bond with them and an attraction to them or an adoration to them on their own, and that's why they can sort of do the Digimon partner thing. And in this episode, it showed that you may not need to be destined by fate like in the other seasons. You can just have that level of adoration, I guess. And I appreciate that. This episode really introduces some concepts and does a little bit of world building. The dim cards not actually impacting the temperature, but making things sandy. And, of course, the fact that you're not really destined to be partnered with this one person. And, of course, the Mon of the Week just kind of being a Digimon that just exists in the world. And I like that. However, in terms of my lowlights, while the show, and I guess another highlight before I get to lowlights, is the fact that we actually had stakes. A big fan of that, big fan of the actual threat. And we've had that the last few weeks. It's nice that Ghost Game hasn't been scared to almost kill the cast. So yeah, fan of that. That makes it feel like it means a lot more. In previous seasons of Digimon, the human partner would just stand 10 meters away and yell and barely ever get attacked by the big bad or the Mon of the Week. This season kind of has them in constant danger, and I appreciate that. But yeah, onto lowlights. Besides the fact that we learn a bit and we do some world building in this episode, there's not really much that actually happens in the episode itself. It feels a little bit basic, which I guess they spent so much time introducing concepts like the dim cards not changing the temperature, and how Digimon just exist in the world, and how we have the partner Digimon not necessarily being just controlled by their human partner, can be controlled by another human if they have enough bond or if the stakes are high enough. It just sort of, the episode didn't really have much, but I do appreciate the world building, and I feel like I wouldn't really be a big fan of this episode had we not had that fairly cool fight with Ruri and Tesla Jellymon, with Ruri just calling out all her attacks. Those last few minutes actually saved the entire episode for me. However, it's kind of almost like a reverse Ghost Game episode. While a lot of Ghost Game episodes have very weak finishes but strong starts and strong-ish middles, this episode was the complete reverse. It was fairly bland and mediocre until the last few minutes, which really made it. So it's still a fine episode, but probably not as good as the others, and I guess that's sort of my lowlights. It still fell flat, but again, and I say this every week, a lot of the show really feels like it suffers from being 20 minutes in length. I feel like if it was a little bit longer, they might have been able to add a little bit more to the episode that would have made it feel less dull, but at least the stakes were high. I did appreciate that. In terms of my favourite character, it was almost Angoramon for trying to keep Kyoshiro and Hiro warm, but Jellymon definitely takes the prize this week for me. Big fan of Jellymon. She's probably becoming one of my favourite Digimon of all time at this rate. When I first saw her design, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of don't care about her design, but now I love her so much. She's got so much personality, and I'm just a huge fan of that. In terms of my rating out of 5, I gave it a little bit higher than Chloe and Quinn gave it. I originally gave it a 4, but after listening to their points, I found that their points were fairly valid, so I lowered it to like a 3.5, on the basis that I did like this episode more than episode 15, which I also gave a 3.5 to. But I don't want to give it a 4 after... Yeah, I feel like it was a kind of bland episode, and the only reason I thought it was a 4 was because of the last few minutes, because I liked those last few minutes so well. I almost gave it a 5 just for those last few minutes, because on their own, the last chunk, it's perfect. It was great to watch, and I really appreciated it. In terms of my ranking, while Chloe and Quinn put this in last place, I've put it in 13th place. It was originally a little higher, in like 9th place I think it was when it was a 4, but again, after rethinking about this episode, and especially after listening to Chloe and Quinn's thoughts, I thought, yeah, it was kind of empty, and I think I was just riding the high that the end part of the episode gave me. So, yeah, it sits in like 14th... Oh no, apparently I put it... Wait, where have I put it? Now I'm lost. No, 12th place, my apologies. So, above episode 15 and above episode 16 for me. However, in our overall ranking, because both Chloe and Quinn put it in last place, I've put in last place for our overall. In our episode ranking, it got a score of 7, which means that it was tied for last place with episode 6. But because both Chloe and Quinn put episode 17 in last place, which is both under episode 6, I'm just putting it in last place in our overall ranking, which is a shame because I did like this episode. But yeah, it was only really like a few minutes that I liked, and judging by what Chloe and Quinn said, it sounded like they only really liked a few minutes of the episode too, which is not enough to make it a good episode. But in any case, it's still better than a lot of Adventure Colon. I'm still enjoying it. But I guess in comparison with the rest of the show, it's just a little bit lacking. But I'm still a fan of it. I'm still enjoying it. And as I mentioned, I'm sort of limiting the segments because it's just me talking. So let's quickly go over Postmon Pat, which is our video comments on YouTube. So first up, we have Mystic Digital, who says overall they enjoyed the episode, and they're happy that they're hearing more of First Rise in the show because they're in love with this song. They didn't mind the fight ending because it dealt a legitimate blow to the enemy this time, though they're not one of the people clamping for the kids spill blood in the first place. And yeah, I get that. I love the music too. And another thing about this episode is that the voice acting was really good. When Gammamon evolved to Battle Gammamon, he sounded like he was in pain, and the background music didn't have First Riders playing. There's just the sound in this, while I'm not like an expert in like sound theory or anything, it sounded great. So to continue on with the comments from episode 16, Danny gave it 4 out of 5. They like seeing Gammon and Hero camping together. Gammon looked so adorable when he was fishing. Next, we have Twilord, who says, in light of Miscellaneous, they feel like the reference book adding random old Digimon probably means they're going to get a Ghost game, console game, or VB appearance. They use both Digimon to have such a fun scenario, and they also felt like Jellymon and Rui disrespecting Hero's right to privacy was sadly, and for the rest of the cast, they enjoy them, in character for those too. And yeah, I can see that. And they also have a prediction that Kyoshiro will die, turn into a Digi-Egg, and raising all the questions. Yeah, that could be fun. And in terms of the reference book being added, I'm not sure if many people are watching my quick snippet review videos that I released a day before the podcast. But yeah, I basically came to the conclusion that a lot of Digimon that have just only recently been added to that reference book are going to be debuting in the show or showing up in Ghost Game in some shape or form. But again, they've also been in the card game around that time too, so it's kind of hard to say. I'm really still hoping for Madoki Betamon being in this. Next, we have TGS, who says they gave episode 16 a 3 out of 5. They feel like it was just a solid episode, not bad, but nothing hugely standing out. They do like Miscellaneous not really being good, just helping humans to keep Jerrymon from getting more powerful, and fun to see the 3 main Mon fighting together as champions again. And yeah, I agree. And then we have the Digimon Professor saying the true horror is having your unencrypted data internet search history looked into by Digimon. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like that was pretty, I don't know, I'm still kind of annoyed that the characters were, just disrespecting his privacy like that, but yeah. Jellymon is, not the Digimon I want looking through my search history by any means. Next up, we have Spore Halo, who says last week was definitely a 2 out of 5. They feel like the kids should have taken a loss with people getting unfrozen as a consolation prize. This week, as in episode 16, was a good 3 out of 5, with Coldest being brought up again. Really makes them think that he will be the key to whatever the plot the series is going for. Coldest being able to break the VB pocket dimension might be able to be how they get to the digital world. As fun as these episodes are, they really need to have an actual plot start sometime soon. And yeah, totally agree. With episode 17 still not really having much with plot, it did introduce concepts which are almost plot, and I would count it as not a filler episode because it introduced something that was new and hopefully is going to be used again. It's not going to be just left in this episode, and if it is just left in this episode, that will definitely bring this episode down in my rankings, I think. But yeah, hopefully we get some plot starting soon. Though looking at the prediction for next week, I'm pretty pessimistic. Next we have Narumi, who says it's a 3.5 out of 5 for them. Strange that the adults don't care about the missing people, and some of them actually died in the episode. They don't remember if there was a human victim death in the previous seasons, and we have Oikawa in 02 who died, and we have Sam, who is Ken's brother in 02, who died. But Oikawa was kind of the baddie, and Sam was kind of before the season started. I think Juri's mum also died, but that was also before the series. So yeah, I don't think we've had human victim death happen in real time who's not a bad guy. Oh, we also had Kurata in season 5, who was just kind of blowing himself up, but also was a bad guy. Then they say that their main lowlight of the season is that Battlegamon is overused. They miss the others, and yeah, I totally agree. While in episode 17 it made sense that we had Battlegamon because he's the fire one, I really hope we get to see the other one show up soon. I'm completely in agreement there. Next we have Andrew, and lastly we also have Andrew, who says that same old fresh air, Digimon comes in, is scary, and just leaves. This is getting old now, at least they say that the Gatomon can just teleport them back to the digital world or something because they got weak. The episode was good, but how much we just got small mentions of Coldest Gatomon, and they don't really do anything with it. And yeah, I kind of wish they did more, but I'm happy that they at least addressed it at all. I was honestly kind of worried that they wouldn't address it, or would only address it next time it was relevant. I'm glad that they did end up addressing it. And yeah, so that's it for our Postmon Pat segment. Of course, if you want to have your comment read out, just leave a comment on this episode on YouTube. And if you don't follow our YouTube, or subscribe to our YouTube rather, please do so, because I release a lot of videos, and it's not always just Digimon. It's sometimes virtual pets, sometimes Tamagotchi and Digivices and lots of other things. It's not just the anime. So yeah, that's my little spruiking of the episode. So for thoughts of the series so far, I guess I'm glad that we got more mechanics, and as I mentioned, I'm worried that we won't go into these mechanics that we just implemented ever again. I hope that we will, because why else show them? But I am forever the pessimist. And next week's episode is called The Land of Children. Looks like we're doing a bit of a Peter Pan thing. That's kind of cool. Looks like we get Petermon, another Digimon that's just been hanging out for decades, not really doing much. And now we get him, so that's kind of cool. I wonder we get Tinkermon as well. Looking forward to that. And I guess I really don't really have many predictions for it. It doesn't look like a plot episode, so I'm kind of pessimistic. But having said that, I'm not like pessimistic about the whole series. I'm still really enjoying Ghost Game, but I would really like more things to talk about soon, if that makes sense. I'm still enjoying it though. So yeah, though that was just me talking, and I guess we can move on to the outro. So thanks for listening to this episode, and we'll be all together in the next recording, which is for episode 18, The Land of Children. The link dump is linked in the description, and so is our Redbubble, as well as many ways you can contact us and stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode on our website, or on this episode on YouTube, as I mentioned before. You can follow us at Translationmon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm at Digimon_Hero on TikTok, and that's hero spelled Hiro. I'm going to try to do more like tickle tackles, I think they're called. What is one singular TikTok video? Is it a tic tac? I don't know. So yeah, I want to start doing things like that, so make sure you throw a follow there, and watch my weirdly cringy videos. I don't know, I still think I'm too old for TikTok, but anyway, for the tickle tackles. So you can also follow me on twitch.tv/translationmon, which is always fun. I'm doing lots of Arceus stuff. I'd like to stream more, and I just got over 50 followers, so that's exciting. And of course, you can chat with us on the Lesson Translationmon Discord server, and you can leave us a review on podcast catchers that accept reviews. I know Spotify just recently has opened up a review system, so go please do the thing. And if you leave a review and I don't see it, I won't be able to read it out. So if you do leave a review, send me a tweet or something telling me that you've given me a review, and tell me where you've left it, and I'll go find it, and then I can read it out in our Postmon Pat segment. And you can also, to help out the show, donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description, from as little as $1 a month. And that gets you access to the Patreon-only areas of our Discord server, but there are higher levels, more rewards, such as unedited and early episodes, and more. And of course, thank you to our current supporters on Patreon, Joe, Stephen Reeves, who is Wild64 on Archive Our Own, Kadawashi, Chisai, who can follow on Twitter at Chisai236, Neobu, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236, Carl, Lismet, who is a one on Tumblr, Nicholas, Sam, and Emery from Gone While Hunting, a Hunter Under Rewatch podcast, Magnus, Lucas, Jason105, Patrick, Jason, Grey Tanuki, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who is on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dedicated Gazi, Alemist, and Michael. And you can also, of course, make a one-off donation on PayPal, which can be found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Edgemon. You can also donate to me on my Coffee account, ko-fi.com/Edra, and that is all that she wrote, y'all. So, of course, check out the YouTube. I do a lot of videos. Do the like, comment, and subscribe thing. And, of course, I'll see you on the next video. Bye! I don't know why I'm waving with my hands. I guess when I'm alone, I just think I'm doing a video and I wave. Bye!